He has a coach's responsibilities which he must attend to as a coach. One of these is equal opportunities. A coach must provide the chance for equal opportunities within the squad that they are coaching. This means the coach must give both genders an opportunity to demonstrate the task. For example, not always the boys in rugby to demonstrate a tackle. There are groups such as UK Sport and Sport England which embraces the spirit of all equality legalisation and is committed to eradicating any form of discrimination. This is what a coach should be looking to do. They shouldn't allow any type of discrimination. This includes whether it's directly or indirectly towards race, disability, class or social status, background, religious beliefs, sexual orientation, ethnic or nationality or gender. For coaches, it is very important to ignore stereotypes. For example, coaches shouldn't expect the boys to only show demonstration on football kicks and make the girls sit out. And the same, for example, for boys and girls in gymnastics. The coach should make both genders take part in demonstrations, not pick the girls due to stereotyping. A real-life example comes from coaches at Lewes FC. They are equally paid, whether man or female, and they are equal and have equal opportunities. The coach will have to consider the age of children themselves when dealing with equal opportunities. If the coach is older, they might want to be more old school and have stronger stereotypes, so this might leave out certain people from taking part in the activity. The coach should also look for people disallowing others to take part because of their gender or their race or disability. If they see this taking part within their squad or anywhere, they should interfere and allow everyone to be part of the activity. Secondly, another responsibility within the coach must look for is health and safety, and they must make sure that this includes making sure that first aid equipment is correct and all in good condition. If not, this could be a risk to the players if they are injured. The coach must have the equipment prepared to be used. This is a big risk if it's not, as the player might be delayed the first aid which they need to avoid even worse injuries that they already have. The coach must also enforce the rules of the sport to make sure the game or event is safe to play. For example, on a rugby pitch, the coach must make sure that the post guards, to make sure if any players run into the post, they are protected from smashing into the metal pole that are cushioned by the post guards. Another example is to make sure that the pitch before the match has no suspicious objects or sharp objects within the pitch, and to make sure it's clean for the use of the players. To enforce the rules, the coach must know the rules of the sport and know the value of the valid sport. For example, a spear tackle in rugby would be a foul. The coach must be able to enforce and discourage the proper rules and the bad behaviour which they don't want to see, make sure the game is safe to play. Another example might be trampolines during gymnastics, as the coach must make sure that coils and springs are all in mid condition and they aren't a hazard available. This can be done through a risk assessment. The coach must make sure if the tramps are not set up properly before letting any activities take place in them. Another responsibility of the coach is legal obligations, such as certain acts and laws which the coach must understand and must follow. They must make sure that the athletes' participants aren't getting abused, neglected, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, or any physical abuse. They must provide an environment for the athlete, a safe environment for the athlete to make sure they feel as though they are safe themselves. For example, with transport, it is recommended that a coach does not drive athletes as they are responsible for anything that happens. Such as a crash, the coach should be responsible for this and injuries that athletes sustain. A coach must be in charge of the health and safety of their athletes. For example, an injury which they might pick up. This could be a netballer gets hit in the face. The coach is responsible to make sure the athlete hasn't got any seriously injured parts, and then the coach must look after this person. About training, the coach suggests supplement and nutritional advice and protein shakes to make sure that athletes' performance or training increase in output. However, some coaches in specific fields of sport have a high level of legal responsibilities for high-risk sports. This could be rugby, as in its contact, or American football due to the amount of physical contact there is within these team-play sports. The coach must also make sure that they are not overworking themselves. This could be a coach which trains with the youngest swimming group and then later in the evening trains for more professional swimmers, meaning they having varied training sessions which might include more or less concentration from the coach. This could lead to too much work for the coach and could potentially cause illness from the stress. The coach must also take the safeguarding course. This allows them to work with young children and any other people. The coach must follow these acts and laws to make sure they are within the guidelines of the law and regulations of the sport and sporting conduct. The last responsibility is professional conduct. This is what a coach expects from the athletes. This is what the coach expects from athletes when turning up to a match, training, or a match. This can include punctuality of the athletes, for example, congratulating those who turn up to basketball practice on time and reinforcing them for this. But if they turn up late, try and encourage them to come early and get there on time. The coach must also be organised when preparing a training and making sure that there is differentiation for all levels between the group, and that some people who want something easy have an option. This could be, for example, throwing longer distances in baseball. The coach should set an example of being dressed appropriately. If the coach was to turn up to rugby practice with jeans and a polo shirt on, then this wouldn't be appropriate for the sport. They should come with shorts, a training top, and waterproofs in case of rain. This then shows the squad how they should turn up to training and what to wear. The coach should also enforce the safety of the behaving properly and to be careful with how they behave with others in a contact sport. For example, if some athletes are messing around at athletics practice, they endanger being hit by something and something else, such as a javelin. This is why a coach must ensure that there will be a professional conduct when taking part. The coach is also responsible for having knowledge within the sport or game themselves. Without this, the coach can't conduct the training properly without it being safe or conducted professionally. Therefore, the coach must have the knowledge of the rules in the sport, for example. This could be during gymnastics. If the coach doesn't know how to perform a certain skill, the athletes are at risk to injury if they perform it wrong. The coach must be able to communicate and use correct language when coaching a sport or event. This could be repeating instructions to make sure everyone has understood the training. Communication is important as it is the way information is conveyed. If the coach is an introvert, this might not be a correct approach, as the coach needs to be able to observe and feedback. However, this is all completely different if the coach is being paid. If the coach is being paid, they are more likely to be more professional and more strict, as their job is to train the athletes, not just to host trainings.